Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Dino Nola. I'm the Head of Digital Engineering at East West Rail, and today I'd like to introduce our Digital Twin Roadmap project. The purpose of the project is to seek an understanding of the digital twin solutions that are needed and when they're needed across the entire enterprise, and to achieve this outcome using a systematic approach. Now, this is a challenge that is faced by all infrastructure organisations, so hopefully this will be of interest to you. The Digital Twin Roadmap project started in early September, so now we have a good idea of the systematic approach and the tool that we'll be using to manage and document the roadmap. Just trying to slide. Okay, so East West Rail is a bit of an introduction. We are a railway. We're building a railway between Oxford and Cambridge. Between Oxford and Bedford, we know the existing route. Something is currently under construction. Is going to be heavily improved and modernised. Then between Bedford and Cambridge, we're currently in a DCO process, and the preferred route selection is imminent, hopefully early next year. And that includes some of the station locations to be confirmed. So we're at a fairly early stage of the programme. So clearly not knowing the infrastructure in its final state is an obstacle we have to overcome. So how do we understand the bigger picture? That is in terms of what is the railway, what it is and where it's going to be. What digital twin solutions are required, focusing on the early adopters. And the who, this is a key part of anything, stakeholder engagement. Who are the stakeholders, and will they have a clear understanding of what digital twin solutions they require? And the reality is probably not. So there's a massive change piece there and engagement to try and get the optimized solutions defined. And clearly, because there's going to be a number of dependencies. For example, the operation group need a timetable to know when to schedule the trains, and the signalling team will need to have that timetable to design the signalling system. They'll be using a common tool. So bringing those stakeholders together is a clear example of good stakeholder engagement. And that once we've understood the digital twins that we need to build, then clearly we need to capture the data, and we're at the early stages of that process, and then manage the data in accordance with the pathway towards information management framework. People, I'm trying to build a team, so team size, skills, knowledge and experience, when do we need them, the tools we're going to need, and the processes. We want to be very, very clear on the methodologies that we're going to use, make sure they're clearly defined and tested before we use them. So in order to build the railway holistically, East West Rail have adopted an enterprise architecture approach, and so I've leaned very heavily on the enterprise architecture approach to facilitate the digital twin roadmap. So what is the enterprise architecture? It's a conceptual blueprint that defines the structure and operation of an organisation. So consequently, that way we are beginning to understand what the railway is going to look like. And in terms of the capabilities and running the railway, we've split East West Rail into three components. When we think about what we need to do to run the railway, which is things like operations, enable the running of the railway, like asset management and maintenance, and then the back office run the enterprise that runs the railway. And for each one of those stakeholder groups, there'll be digital twin solutions that we have to solicit. Why have we adopted an enterprise architecture? Well, it's very easy having schematics and nice pictures, but the reality is it is really complex. So we need to be very careful in defining the railway and making sure that we're going to achieve our outcomes. Now, this is quite an interesting slide. The main message is actually in the top left, because the enterprise approach involves everybody. We know we've got standard components like rail bridges and track and rolling stock, but the picture in the middle is what the enterprise architecture gives you, which is the picture on the Lego box, which is the entirety of the enterprise. And we need this picture as a common picture to enable all the various stakeholders to communicate. More typically, we have the systems engineering, systems of systems. You can see here, this is a breakdown of the railway. As you can see, it's quite complex, it's multifaceted. And we can either refer to these as the system of systems, or sometimes we call them services. And each one of these services can be enabled and enhanced with digital twin solutions. So that's the exam question we're trying to answer. And the beauty of the enterprise architecture is that it can bring together different stakeholders and solicit their different views. So going back to the timetable, our operational colleagues could possibly view the timetable digital twin as a circle, and the signaling team will view it as a rectangle. The reality, it's a cylinder, but depending which perspective you look at it, you get a different view. And again, you can see here we have a central model which different stakeholders from all around the business can view, and is a great way of engaging and making sure we join the company up. So how do we leverage the architecture model? So we said we adopted an enterprise architecture approach, and to manage that, we've created enterprise architecture model, which we started a year ago. So the digital twin roadmap project will use the enterprise architecture model, and to that add a conceptual layer, which I've called the digital twin layer, that will identify where digital twin solutions will be employed across the entire enterprise. And clearly we need to understand the timings of that, because we've got to get the benefits as early as possible, not just at end state. And in doing so, this helps us understand the capabilities that are required to deliver the digital twin solutions. When we were designing the enterprise models, we broke the enterprise into numerous areas. So you can see area 9 was information management, and subsection 9.2 was digital twin delivery and maintenance. And we had some enterprise context diagrams which we used to start facilitating the discussions to design the model. And in doing the modelling, the first thing we looked at was identified who the stakeholders were. We looked at the outcomes we wish to achieve, and it's really important that we're completely outcome driven, must know what we're trying to achieve. From those outcomes, we can decide the capabilities we require and start documenting the needs and requirements. And all these get put together into a model. Now, forgive me if this is a very superficial run through, but hopefully it gives a flavour of the process that we went through for defining the entire railway, and not just the information management side. So you can see here, this is a snapshot of the model, an early rendition of it. It's obviously going to get a lot more complicated. You can see here the blue box in the middle is digital twin delivery and maintenance, which includes items like manage asset information and manage enterprise data. And then around that and the peripheral, like the spokes, you can see there some of the outcomes that we're going to achieve. And one of those you can see there to the left above the digital twin manager is the published timetable. So by capturing all this in the enterprise architecture model, it is a data-driven tool where all the artifacts are backed up by data, and they can be linked and relationships built, which will enable data-driven reporting to and even documents, that you can produce documents with paragraph text. So as the model evolves, we can keep track of configuration management, and this gives us a clear means of capturing where all our digital twin solutions are going to be, against which outcomes and for which stakeholders. So in summary, this is a really complex thing across the entire enterprise, and it's going to change and evolve over time, so we have to manage that. The Digital Twin Roadmap project has leveraged the enterprise architecture approach to define the enterprise, and we've adopted the enterprise architecture model tool. And on top of that, we've added the digital twin layer to the enterprise architecture model, which provides a data-driven solution to define our digital twin solutions and outcomes and the capabilities required to deliver them. So thank you for that.